Could a J.J. McCarthy trade be on the table this offseason? We're going to talk about it on today's edition of Vikings Out by Chat Sports. Appreciate all the real ones for tuning in. And then also on the second half of today's show, Jalen Nailor. What is his contract going to look like during free agency? We got some good projections coming up here in just a second. Let's start off with what Aaron Shatz had to say in a recent ESPN article. If you guys don't know, Aaron Shatz was the person who came up with the statistic DVOA, but he was talking about some players in the NFL that could use a new change of scenery, and he said this about McCarthy, saying this is likely never going to happen because it would be ridiculous for the Vikings to unload a player who still has first-round upside after 10 starts. However, a fresh start for McCarthy with a different organization might be the best thing for his career. Yes, you want a young quarterback to be with an offensive mind, such as Minnesota coach Kevin O'Connell, for the purposes of his development. However, things went so badly for the Vikings with McCarthy last season that it might be best to get him out of the shadow of Super Bowl winner Sam Darnold. Now, I think in terms of the Vikings trading with J.J. McCarthy, this makes absolutely no sense. Like, whatever your thoughts on J.J. McCarthy are, whether you think this guy is, the biggest bust of all time and he's in Jamarcus Russell territory and he's just completely done product, he's stamped, he's a bust, it still doesn't make any sense for the Vikings to trade him. Because unless you are getting a top 10 quarterback in this building, like a Joe Burrow potentially, or maybe somehow Justin Herbert, but none of these guys are going to happen, then you hang on to J.J. McCarthy. Because even if you are bringing in a guy like Kyler Murray, or you somehow bring in, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Mac Jones, whoever it may be, you still want to have that young quarterback who you spent the 10th overall pick on, even if he is not the starter this season, still want him in this quarterback room. You still want him to develop behind the scenes, see if he can turn out to be something at some point in his NFL career. Now, the one thing I do wonder, though, would J.J. McCarthy's camp want this? Like, if you really asked, like, his agent, his quarterback coach, and himself, and you came to him and said, hey, with all the noise around you, would you want a fresh start somewhere else? All right, let's just say this hypothetical. What if the 49ers offered Mac Jones straight up for J.J. McCarthy, which I forget who was talking about it, but they made a good point that maybe both sides would have some interest there. Would McCarthy's camp have interest in that? I have doubts that they would, but maybe if they want to get out of the shadows of Sam Darnold, then they just want a completely fresh start, kind of like what Aaron was saying, how disastrous it was this past season, maybe they would have some interest. Now, I wonder also this, Kevin O'Connell's side of things. Does Kevin O'Connell want J.J. McCarthy in the building? Or is he completely done with him? Like, it's KOC saying that, hey, this kid, I can't fix his mechanics. He's incredibly inaccurate. We had to completely switch up our offensive playbook this past year, pretty much remove all over the middle of the field throws from our playbook because this guy couldn't execute my offense at a high level whatsoever. Even if they bring in Kyler Murray, would KOC still want to have to give attention to J.J. McCarthy as a backup, or does he just want that veteran? Does he want that guy in the NFL with a bunch of experience in the room? I would have some question marks there. But you guys let me know this. A third-round pick for J.J. McCarthy, would you do it? I would not. I think probably – I honestly don't know what his market would be right now, maybe a second and a fifth. I mean, you still spent the top 10 pick on the guy, and he's only had 10 starts. With his injury history, I probably would think a third-round pick would be fair. But you guys, let me know. Would you trade J.J. McCarthy for a third-round pick? Give me Y for yes or an N for no. Now, I do want to talk about all these J.J. McCarthy reports here real quick because all this stuff is coming out for a reason. I mean, even dating back to the Super Bowl week and Media Row, and you had guys like Aaron Jones, you had guys like Justin Jefferson talking about J.J. McCarthy, and they're all pretty much throwing him under the bus without completely throwing him under the bus. And we get this report from Alec Lewis that the Vikings had to limit their playbook. We're having everybody chime in on J.J. McCarthy, and all these reports are coming out of somewhere. In my opinion, they're coming out for a reason. And I still think Kevin O'Connell, his PR team, it is the best in the National Football League. Some speculation here. I could see some of these reports be coming from Kevin O'Connell and his team for trying to save face for how disastrous it was this past season. Like, it was terrible offensively. Does KOC want any of that blame? Absolutely not. He's going to want to go put that on his young quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, and be like, oh, I couldn't even run my full offense because of the quarterback we had under center. Now, also, this coming out from Jeremy Fowler I thought was interesting. My sense right now from asking around is that all of the top quarterbacks that will be or could be available, Minnesota is the place they would want to go because of what you have with Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell, a lot of pieces in place. And I do agree with what Jeremy Fowler's saying here. I think just like the support system that the Vikings have of having the best wide receiver in the league, of having a top 15 offensive play caller in Kevin O'Connell, you still got two really good offensive tackles in O'Neal and Darisaw. You have a good foundation for a young quarterback. But why is that coming out? Maybe it's just Jeremy Fowler hearing from guys like Mac Jones, from Anthony Richardson, from any of these quarterbacks that are out there on the market right now that they would like to come to Minnesota. And I do believe that because some other teams that need quarterbacks, like the New York Jets, the Arizona Cardinals potentially, like obviously the Vikings are a better landing spot for the quarterback position because they also probably saw Sam Darnold had a great year. Daniel Jones, even though he didn't play, he was working behind the scenes and he got a lot done and he took a huge step in his career. But it's just interesting that that's coming out. And also, Jared Allen. He was talking with Kay Adams recently. And, Jared Allen, if you guys know, in press conferences, he is just very, very blatantly honest. He will just tell you exactly how he's feeling. And he says, can the kid, McCarthy, stay healthy? If you're waiting for JJ to mature by year 5, 6, 7, all of a sudden, Justin Jefferson is 10 to 12 years in. If you can't stay healthy, you can't stay the starter. And this is now the second Vikings legend to throw shade at J.J. McCarthy. If you guys remember Chris Carter during the season, he was on Twitter talking a lot of noise about J.J., pretty much just saying he's just not an NFL quarterback at this point. And now Jared Allen is kind of throwing some shade at J.J. McCarthy. Now, I thought the point Jared Allen made about saying that, like, hey, Justin Jefferson, if you wait for McCarthy to develop, he's going to be past his prime when J.J. finally gets that spot where you feel like he is a top 15 quarterback in the league. And I think the Justin Jefferson cloud over this J.J. McCarthy situation is completely real. Like, who is the most important player on this football team? Who is the most well-known football player? Who is the one who has the highest amount of jersey sales in this entire organization? It's Justin Jefferson. He is in the peak of his powers right now. He is 26 years old. He is coming off a year where he played all 17 games and only had 1,000 yards. That has to be eating at Jefferson. I think if you replicate this 2025 season in 2026, where the Vikings go 9-8, they miss the playoffs, and he has 1,000 yards, Jefferson's going to demand a trade. Maybe we won't ever get the report that Jefferson demanded a trade because I'm assuming he'll go behind closed doors, talk to the Vikings organization, and just it'll be a bombshell trade where we didn't really see it coming, and he gets traded to like the Chiefs or the Bills or something. But I just think Jefferson would get extremely frustrated if the season they had last year happens again. And also, I think it is so clear with all these reports coming out that Kevin O'Connell knows he was wrong about J.J. McCarthy. And I'm going to have some of my guys at Chat Sports who are at the Combine this week. The number one question I want them to ask Kevin O'Connell is if his evaluation of J.J. McCarthy has changed since the 2024 NFL Draft. I think the answer is obviously yes, but I just want to see how Kevin O'Connell would try to dance around it. And, he's obviously the GOAT at coach talk here in the National Football League, but I would just be curious to see what he had to say because I think his evaluation has changed extremely because we were getting reports that's like, oh, KOC, yes, he loved Caleb Williams, but obviously the Vikes had no chance, but Drake May was his guy, and then number 2 is J.J. McCarthy. So I want to ask him if his evaluation has changed here. So we'll dive into more around the Vikes here in just a second, but if you guys are subscribed to the channel, want to give some love to the real ones, just give me those skulls down below. We'll show you guys up on the show here in the near video, give you guys some shout-outs there. So if you guys are subscribed to the channel, just give me those skulls down below. And also, St. Patrick's Day just around the corner, and if you guys want to rock some Vikings Now merch and get the Minnesota Drinking Team t-shirt line, just head to chatsports.com/VikingsGreen. These t-shirts are going for $29.99 right now. I got the link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's show, but we're finally coming out with merch here on the channel. And if you guys want to rock some Chat Sports gear, I would greatly appreciate it. It really does help us out. I think the design is sweet, and you guys can rock these for St. Patrick's Day. Or you guys could get the black option and just go Minnesota Drinking Team. Pretty much, Vikings fans, we drink our sorrows away every single Sunday, so I think it would be a good option there. So chatsports.com/VikingsGreen, $29.99 right now. All right, let's close out today's show talking about Jalen Nailor and Eric Wilson. Now, The Athletic, they put out a recent article diving into all 150 free agents here in the National Football League, and they gave contract projections for every single free agent. Actually, pretty shocking here. Jalen Nailor came in at 29. I thought that was a tad high, but they did have his contract projection at 3 years, $36 million. Now, on all contract projections, this is just my biggest gripe with anybody who's doing contract projections. This has nothing to do with the Vikings, just NFL media as a whole. Put guaranteed money in your contract projection. Is this 3 years, 36 with 30 million guaranteed? It's probably too much for Nailor. Is this 3 for 36 with 18 guaranteed, 20 guaranteed? Probably just about right. Like the 3 for 36 number, especially with void years and how they structure these NFL contracts, it all matters about the guaranteed money. So that's my one gripe with this. But 3 for 36, that's a good amount of money for Jalen Nailor. But this is what Daniel Popper of The Athletic had to say, saying Nailor's production does not jump off the screen. The 2026 sixth-round pick had a career-high 444 receiving yards in 2025, but Nailor is playing behind Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and he dealt with poor quarterback play last season. More importantly, the tape shows a player who's ready to take a big jump in the right environment. Now, if Jalen Nailor's asking price is 3 years, $36 million, there's no chance the Vikings cough that up. I mean, just financially, the Vikings are so in the hole right now. They're not going to pay a wide receiver 3 on the football team $12 million per year. That's just not realistic. I love Jalen Nailor. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the National Football League. Him as a wide receiver 3, he is fantastic. I even think he could be a low-end wide receiver 2 in the right situation. But 3 for 36, with how the Vikings are structured financially right now, makes no sense unless you do end up trading Jordan Addison. Then 110%. Give Jalen Nailor what he deserves, $10+ million per year. I mean, he had some splash plays this season, like 50-50 balls. He's got top-end speed. He's a great route runner. And the thing about Nailor that you love the most, for a 6th-round pick, the guy's gotten better every single season. Like, we have seen strides, even though the production's been about the same. But that one catch he had in Detroit, 3rd and 7 to ice the game, 50-50 ball this past season, had that one catch against the Dallas Cowboys that was ridiculous. He had sure hands this entire season. So I think he deserves 10+ a year. I just don't think with how the Vikings are set up right now, you can't pay a wide receiver 3 that much money, especially if you are going to pay Jordan Addison down the line potentially $28 million per year. But let's talk about Eric Wilson here. So their contract projection for Eric Wilson was, again, pretty steep. 3 years, $19.5 million. Now, I think Eric Wilson was one of the unsung heroes of Brian Flores' defense this past season. Him as a blitzing linebacker, like a true traditional linebacker, he had to have been one of the best in the National Football League, and he dominated both games against the Detroit Lions. And this is what Popper had to say about Eric Wilson, saying Wilson is a downhill, off-ball linebacker who can blitz and defend the run. He is more limited as a coverage player. He has sideline-to-sideline speed and attack plays in front of him. Wilson also got some edge work in coordinator Brian Flores' scheme. Wilson is undersized, which limits him when he is asked to take on climbing guards and centers in the run game. So, listen, Eric Wilson, 3 for 19.5. That is a little much for his play. But I think with where the Vikings are at right now, if you don't bring back Eric Wilson, you're going to have to fill that linebacker spot. I would honestly, if it's 3 for 20, I would be honestly more inclined to give him that deal because he knows the system, and plus he excelled in it last year. I mean, his stats are absolutely ridiculous for a traditional linebacker. His pressure rate was 21.9% as a linebacker, 6.5 sacks, had over 100 tackles this season, and he had 17 TFLs plus run stuffs, and he had a splash play rate of 4.9%. That's an unbelievable season. Like, that is a borderline Pro Bowl season for Eric Wilson. So I would do it. I would bring him back. Hopefully you can maybe get him on a 3 for 15 deal. Then it's just $5 million a year for, I don't want to call him like a gadget linebacker, but that's kind of how Flores uses him, where it's just like a juiced up version of what Ivan Pace was for this defense, where he is just either trying to sack the quarterback or he's just running straight after the ball carrier on every single play. Very rarely did we see Eric Wilson just drop back into a typical hook zone coverage. It was either I'm just seeing ball and getting ball. That's how Flores has been using him. So I think that fits about the $5 to $7 million per year price range that he should go for. But you guys tell me, if you guys had to pick one, Eric Wilson or Jalen Nailor, for their contract projections that they're given, I would probably lean Eric Wilson. Just Vikings right now can't pay a wide receiver 3, $12 million per year. So give me Eric Wilson on that one. I'm going to see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.